Here are the top stories for today, the 27th of June 2022. Overseas employment slowly picks up. The government says the deployment of Filipino migrant workers increased as countries slowly open up due to easing of COVID-19 curbs. No breather for motorists as fuel prices are up again this week with smaller price hikes amid rising inflation and the weakening of the local currency. No words but thank you. People from all walks of life pay tribute to President Rodrigo Duterte's service in a Thanksgiving concert days before he bows out of office. And stronger collaboration in food security, education, and other areas take center stage as the Philippines and France mark 75 years of diplomatic ties. Our top story for today, overseas workers' deployment has increased by up to 30% amid the COVID-19 pandemic as infections dropped and curbs were eased. According to the Philippine Overseas Employment Administration, the deployment of healthcare workers is still ongoing.
Pumaba po ng mahigit 74% ang ating deployment noong 2020 kung ikukumpara po natin doon sa ating tinatawag na pre-pandemic deployment level. Ito pong mga nakaraang taon, lalong-lalo na noong 2021, balik na po ang sigla, lalong-lalo na sa seafaring industry po natin. Unti-unti na po siya bumabalik sa ating pre-pandemic level.
The POEA earlier set a 7,500 cap on the deployment of healthcare workers. Last month, POEA Administrator Bernard Olalia said the figure is still far from reach as the number of nurses deployed from January to May has only reached over 2,000. He also said more jobs abroad are available to would-be overseas Filipino workers as the country continues to sign bilateral labor agreements with host countries. Olalia, meanwhile, warns OFWs and other applicants to beware of tech scams. He said the POEA website is currently under repair to provide better services to the public. Fuel prices will slightly go up again this week, with price hikes seeing no signs of abating soon. In separate advisories, firms will hike gasoline prices by 50 centavos per liter and diesel prices by 1 peso and 65 centavos per liter. Kerosene prices will have a meager hike of 10 centavos per liter. The hike comes amid the weakening of the local currency and movements in the global market, with the peso slipping to near 55 level to a US dollar on Friday. Malacanang is pleased by the results of a recent survey that classified the net personal optimism of the Filipinos as very high. This as the recent Social Weather Stations or SWS survey held from April 19 to 27 showed 44% of adult Filipinos said their quality of life will improve. 39% said it will stay the same and 4% claimed it will worsen in the next 12 months. The remaining 13% did not give an answer. Acting Presidential Spokesperson and Communications Secretary Martin Andanar attributed Filipinos' very high net personal optimism score to the Duterte administration's COVID-19 response. He said central to the success of the government's pandemic response is maintaining vigilance against COVID-19 with strict adherence to minimum public health standards while ensuring the country's socio-economic recovery where livelihood opportunities are available, hunger is eased, and quality of life is improved. President Rodrigo Duterte urged the incoming administration to continue leading the improvement of the country's railway systems. Duterte led the opening of the Philippine National Railways Lucena-San Pablo commuter line. The reopened railroad shortens travel time between San Pablo, Laguna and Lucena, Quezon from 1 hour to 30 minutes. For Duterte, this also serves as a vital step towards restoring the PNR Bicol Express that will connect Metro Manila to the provinces in southern Luzon and Bicol. It will also boost the tourism sector in the area.
It is my hope that you will never lose sight of this goal, as the enhancement of this vital transportation connection will be the key to unlocking even better opportunities for our countrymen. As my term in office draws to a conclusion, I am thankful that I spend my last days as President witnessing events like this and realizing that even amidst the challenges around us, we will leave a legacy that brought meaningful and lasting changes to the lives that we have touched.
More and more Filipinos expressed their gratefulness to outgoing President Rodrigo Duterte as his term is now coming to an end. A Thanksgiving party called Salamat PRRD was held yesterday to honor the president that touched the lives of the Filipinos. The details from Laid Kabagani.
Rains did not dampen the spirits of thousands of supporters and fans of President Rodrigo Duterte. Thousands of people came to show their gratitude to the outgoing president. Various artists performed during the concert, including such as Andrew E., Chad Borja, Dulce, Freddy Aguilar, Icy Guerra, Isay Alvarez, Jed Madela, Jimmy Bondoc, Martin Rivera, Moymoy Palaboy, Robert Sena, and the Philippine Philharmonic Orchestra. Duterte meanwhile thanked all attendees by serenading them.
Sa lahat ng panahon, bawat pagkakataon, ang ibigin ko ikaw. Ikaw ang tanglaw sa aking mundo.
A fireworks display was also set off while the president was belting out, and a drone show with the rendering of the words Salamat PRRD. 31 years old Joan Manodom traveled from Zamboanga del Norte to attend a Thanksgiving event to personally thank the outgoing president. Her husband is a soldier who was killed in an encounter in Holosulu on April 17, 2020. She said that under the Comprehensive Social Benefits Program for dependents of killed in action soldiers, they received a financial, employment, livelihood, education, housing, and healthcare assistance.
Nawala man yung mahal namin sa buhay, yung asawa namin, hindi niya kami pinabayaan. Lahat ng mga benefits na kailangan namin makuha is binabigay niya sa amin. Tapos kaya doon po is sobrang thankful kami dahil kay Pangulong Duterte dahil sa binigay niya sa amin at hindi, kahit nawalan kami ng asawa, hindi niya kami binigay niya sa amin lahat.
Maguindanao Governor by Mariam Sanki Manguda Dato also traveled from Mindanao to thank President Duterte for his political will to push for long-lasting and genuine peace in the region.
Taos-puso kami nagpapasalamat sa kay President Duterte na siya lamang po ang presidente na nagbigay taos-pusong pagtitiwala, no, dahil binigay niya ang ratification po ng BOL at kaya po tayo ay nagkaroon po ng ban na tinatawag.
Other attendees also commended President Rodrigo Duterte's patriotism, political will, and strong leadership.
Ang ganda po ng kanyang mga nagawa sa ating bayan, sa bawat Pilipino. Hindi na natin kailangan magsaliksik pa. We just have to look around and see what happened in the Philippines. Binalik niya ang tunay at mataas na pagtingin ng mga taga-ibang bansa sa Pilipinas at sa bawat Pilipino.
Dahil siya talaga ay may political will, gustong-gusto ko yung kanyang malasakit sa Pilipino. Siya ay isang matapang na Pangulo at mapagmahal sa mga ordinaryong tao.
Isa po siyang napakasimpleng presidente sa lahat ng naging presidente. Siya ang may simple yet napakatapang at napaka-strict pagdating sa droga, which is our number one enemy in our country now. Because of him, nabawasan po at least yung kriminalidad sa ating bansa.
Gusto ko po masaksihan yung pagbaba bago siya bumaba sa pwesto kasi ever since naging naging presidente siya, hindi ko pa siya nakikita in person.
The last time na makakasama or makikita ko si PRRD during an event. So kahit galing kami ng Pampanga, nag-travel kami.
Duterte will step down from the office by noon on Thursday, June 30. He will be succeeded by President-elect Ferdinand Marcos Jr. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Laud Kabagani.
President Rodrigo Duterte is indeed a beloved president because of his eagerness to provide the quality service that the Filipino people deserve. During the Thanksgiving event at the Quirino Grandstand in Manila, incoming PCOO Secretary Trixie Cruz Angeles said Duterte's sincerity and passion to serve endeared him to the nation. The outgoing president earned consistent high approval ratings throughout his 6-year term, the latest of which was Octa Research's survey conducted on March 5 to 10. Among government officials, Duterte had the highest performance at 67% and trust scores at 69%. Angeles said he had fulfilled his promises of doing whatever it takes for the benefit of Filipinos.
Kasi parating nasa isip ninyo yung kapakanan ng taong bayan. Ramdam namin na kami ang nauuna. Kami yung naging worthy ng serbisyo. Naramdaman namin na finally may gobyerno. Puso para sa mahihirap, may puso para sa taong bayan. Actually, para sa kanya, it didn't make a difference, mahirap, mayaman. Ang serbisyo niya para sa Pilipino. Ang naririnig natin sa kanya, hahanap tayo ng pera, gagawa tayo ng paraan. So, although alam naman natin how government works, nakikita niyo yung mga pangako niya, ginagawa niya.
More government officials lauded President Rodrigo Duterte for personally attending to the concerns of the nation and the needs of state agencies. Defense Undersecretary Ricardo Halad said Duterte was an exemplary leader and made his presence felt in all disaster response activities during his 6-year term. Halad said Duterte's leadership consolidated the disaster response of various government agencies.
There is a disaster, yung hands-on leadership talaga niya. Talagang nag-require ng report kaagad sa amin at pupunta pa siya mismo doon sa lugar. As soon as the weather improves, talagang pupunta na siya doon. So anong epekto nun sa akin? Taga-coordinate ako ng mga government agencies. Pagka nandun si Presidente, nandun din yung cabinet secretaries nila.
Meanwhile, pension arrears were paid and healthcare benefits were improved under the Duterte administration. The Veterans Memorial Medical Center in Quezon City was also provided with ample funds and medicines. Veterans wards were also established in the provinces. Undersecretary Ernesto Carolina of the Philippine Veterans Affairs Office said it is during his time that the veterans felt they are important.
Talaga naman nung panahon lamang niya, naramdaman ng mga veterano na binibigyan sila ng pagpapahalaga.
The United Filipino Global International also thanked Duterte for looking after the plight of the overseas Filipinos. Gemma Soto, president of the group, thanked Duterte for signing into law the Department of Migrant Workers Bill.
Kami ay nagpapasalamat kay President Rodrigo Duterte dahil po sa kanya nagkaroon na po kami talaga ng sariling departamento. President Duterte, sa lahat po ng OFWs, mahal na mahal ka namin dahil po yung pinangako mong bigyan kami ng bahay na departamento, nandyan na po talaga. At sa Malasakit Center, nakasama si Sabongo na mga loved ones ng ating OFWs ay libre na po ang kanilang pang-hospital.
Still ahead, heading to Manila this week, you may want to avoid some roads due to closures for Thursday's presidential inauguration rites. And the Philippines and France seek stronger collaboration in various areas as diplomatic ties of the two nations reach 75 years. We'll be back after a quick break. Keep it here on the PNA Newsroom.
Kumain ng masustansya, uminom ng vitamin. Mga kabida, hindi pa rin po nawawala ang banta ng COVID-19. Kaya para masigurado natin ang inyong kaligtasan, hanapin po ang Safety Seal sticker sa kahit na anong lugar na inyong pupuntahan, mapamall man ito o kahit na anong establishmento. Ang Safety Seal po ay tanda ng isang establishmento ay sumusunod sa minimum public health standards ng gobyerno para maiwasan ang pagkalat ng COVID-19. Ating pong tatandaan, bida ang may disiplina, kaya #SafetySeal para sa ligtas na pamilya at ligtas na bayan.
The United States confirms it will send a delegation to attend the inauguration of President-elect Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. on Thursday. In a statement from the White House, Second Gentleman of the United States Douglas Emhoff will lead the delegation. The other members of the delegation are Ms. Heather Variaba, Chargé d'Affaires ad interim of U.S. Embassy Manila, U.S. Representative and Chairman of the Committee on Education and Labor Bobby Scott, Deputy Director Nani Coloretti of the Office of Management and Budget, former Vice Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, retired Admiral James Sandy Winfield Jr., Special Assistant to the President and Senior Director for East Asia and Oceania, National Security Council Edgar Kagana, and U.S. Director of the Asian Development Bank, Chantal Wong. The Metropolitan Manila Development Authority, or MMDA, has released the road closures and traffic rerouting plan around the National Museum of the Philippines, the site of the inauguration of President-elect Bongbong Marcos on June 30. From June 26 midnight to June 30, parts of Padre Burgos Avenue, Finance Road, Maria Orosa Street, and General Luna Street will be closed to vehicles. On June 30, 4 a.m. to 11 p.m., Ayala Boulevard and Victoria Street will also be closed. Mendiola Street will be closed to vehicles from June 29 midnight to June 30 at 11 p.m. On June 30, Halandoni Street at PICC Pasay City will be closed from 4 a.m. to 11 p.m., while Legarda Street will be closed from 1 p.m. to 11 p.m. All vehicles are expected to follow the corresponding alternate routes. The Philippines and France are envisioning closer ties, especially on food security and education, as the two nations mark 75 years of diplomatic ties. Foreign Affairs Secretary Teodoro Locsin Jr. and French Ambassador Michel Bocaz graced the event at the Pinto Art Museum on Sunday. In his speech, Locsin says he hopes for deeper ties between Manila and Paris, which dates back from 1947 following the signing of the Treaty of Amity. Bocaz says the two nations had been in connection through banking and further exchanges, and she hopes to upgrade this relationship. Aside from food security and education, the two sides are seen to bolster other fields such as energy and climate change. A stronger cultural collaboration is also seen through a series of programs throughout the second half of the year. Coinciding with the celebration is the launch of the Diamond in the Rough exhibit at the museum, featuring artworks of Filipino artists residing in France and of French artists living in the Philippines, which runs from June 27 to August 7. Malacanang has asked the International Criminal Court to allow government efforts to address alleged flaws in the drug war to run its course. This came after ICC prosecutor Karim Khan asked to reopen the investigation into the country's campaign against illegal drugs. Acting Presidential Spokesperson Secretary Martin Andanar cited the United Nations Joint Program on Human Rights, which allows the government's efforts to probe flaws in the campaign. He likewise argued that the Commission on Human Rights recommended the monitoring of the human rights situation in the country, but not the need for direct external investigation. In September 2021, the ICC began its probe covering the dates of November 2011 to March 16, 2019 in the context of the Philippine drug war. The Department of National Defense, or DND, has signed a contract with state-owned shipbuilder PT PAL Indonesia to build 2 long-landing platform docks for the Philippines. The company and the Philippine government signed the sale and purchase contract in Manila on June 24. Will Gozainar, Chief Marketing Officer of PT PAL Indonesia, said it was the second time that PT PAL Indonesia had received the order for warships from the Philippines. He said the Philippine government was satisfied with the operation of 2 strategic sealift vessel landing docks that had been delivered by PT PAL several years ago. The landing docks will be built in Surabaya. Meanwhile, the Philippines and Bangladesh can further strengthen their 50 years of diplomatic ties by partnering in critical sectors that will address pressing challenges in both countries. Bangladesh Ambassador to Manila FM Borhan Udin said, food, pharmaceutical, and climate change and risk reduction are areas where the 2 countries can explore more opportunities. He says Manila and Dhaka could also explore opportunities in healthcare services, medical equipment, information technology, garments, shipbuilding, and tourism, among others. In 2021, Philippine-Bangladesh bilateral trade amounted to $110 million, surpassing the $75 million pre-pandemic 2-way trade value. The government is urged to work on managing the transition of business process outsourcing companies from registering with the Philippine Economic Zone Authority, or PEZA, to a more flexible enhanced deduction system. Albay Representative Joey Salceda said he would work with the Finance and Trade Departments to encourage BPOs to register either as exporters or as domestic enterprises under the Board of Investments. He said the government should also ensure that BPOs are able to conduct alternative forms of working arrangements, such as work from home, while remaining competitive through tax incentives. He argued that work from home has its own economic benefits, such as lower overall fuel and transport consumption. Some IT-BPM registered business enterprises have decided to forgo their tax perks from the government to maintain the work from home arrangement for employees. More stories from the newsroom. Bulacan steps up its anti-dengue drive following an uptick in cases. And a town in Surigao del Sur reboots tourism with a kickoff of a local festival after a 2-year hiatus. Details ahead. Stay with the PNA Newsroom.
Sa matinding laban natin sa Coronavirus Disease 2019, sugpuin din natin ang pagkalat ng fake news. Huwag magbahagi ng impormasyon na hindi tiyak ang pinagmulan. I-check mabuti ang source ng balita. Kumuha lamang ng impormasyon mula sa mga official channel ng Department of Health. Huwag magpadala sa maling balita, basta't sama-sama at laging handa. Kaya natin to. Isang paalala mula sa DOH, PCOO, KBP at ng himpilang ito. Alamin kung paano ang tamang pagsusuot ng surgical mask. Una, hawakan ang mask sa strap at siguruhing natatakpan nito ang inyong bibig at ilong. Tandaan, ang may kulay na bahagi ng mask ang dapat nasa labas. Ito lamang ang tamang paraan ng pagsuot nito. Ihulma ang nose piece o maliit na metallic strip ayon sa hugis ng inyong ilong. Iwasan ang paghawak sa inyong ilong at bibig. Kung marumi na ang mask, hubarin ito gamit ang strap at itapon ito sa isang basurahan. Siguruhin ang maayos na paghuhugas ng kamay gamit ang sabon at tubig. Ang surgical mask ay dapat gamitin ng mga pasyenteng may sakit sa baga o mga taong mayroong ubo, sipon at lagnat, mga nag-aalaga sa mga may sakit, at mga healthcare at frontline workers. Maaari ring magsuot nito kung kayo ay pupunta sa matataong lugar. Basta't sama-sama at laging handa. Kaya natin to! Isang paalala mula sa DOH, PCOO, KBP at ng himpilang ito.
In Bulacan, Governor Daniel Fernando has ordered intensified preventive measures against dengue as the number of cases in the province increased significantly. The provincial head office public health reported that cases from January to June 11, 2022 reached over 2,700 or 54% higher compared to the same period last year. Most of the reported cases were from the age bracket of 11 to 20 years old. Fernando last Friday ordered intense monitoring in the affected areas with fogging to be done regularly. He plans to issue an executive order requiring owners of business establishments to conduct fogging and spraying at least once a month. The governor ordered the PHOPH to hold an orientation for barangay officials, health workers, and volunteers to intensify the surveillance and implementation of the enhanced 4S strategy in every barangay. Task Force Bangon Marawi assures that the rehabilitation of the previously war-torn city will continue beyond the term of President Duterte. More on this from Claire Gighe.
Before ending the term of President Rodrigo Roa Duterte, Task Force Bangon Marawi or TFBM Chairman Secretary Eduardo Del Rosario has once again visited Marawi City to inspect the ongoing rehabilitation of the place. Now, one can see that infrastructures were already founded, such as the Marawi Museum, Rizal Park, barangay complexes, and mosques. Together with his visit was also the inauguration of the newly repaired Ramadan Mosque, which was one of those damaged by the siege in 2017. Meanwhile, the construction of other buildings are underway, like the Sarimanok Sports Stadium and Convention Center, which are expected to be completed in August this year. The Grand Parian Market is likewise being built alongside other projects.
Wala tayong dapat ipangamba with regards to the completion of the projects being undertaken. Yung pondo ibinibigay ng national government sa mga implementing agencies. Kahit matapos na ang term namin ni President Duterte, ay tuloy-tuloy pa rin kasi dapat tapusin ng mga implementing agencies yung kanilang mga projects na sila ang naging implementors.
To recall, it was in October 2017 when the liberation was declared in Marawi City. The Phase 1 of the rehabilitation program then commenced with the distribution of assistance to internally displaced persons or IDPs, and this was then followed by the Phase 2 or debris management, wherein unexploded ordnances and bombs were detonated. July in 2020 when the Phase 3 began with the construction of the horizontal and vertical infrastructures, which until now is still continuing. According to Del Rosario, the TFBM has remained at all times beside Marawi City for its restoration and recovery.
We have put our services, our focus. That's why I have been here almost every month saying to it that I look at the progress of the rehabilitation and talk directly to the implementing agencies if we see that there are some lapses or delay in the implementation of their projects. We see to it that we talk to them so that some measures can be undertaken to fast-track their implementation of the project.
Currently, Marawi City's most affected area is foreseen to be a tourist destination, especially with the buildings fronting Lake Lanao. For PNA Newsroom, Claire Gigha of the Philippine Information Agency Lanao del Sur.
Relentless anti-drug operations in the country continue, with cops seizing close to 105 million pesos worth of illegal drugs over the weekend. Two high-value suspects yielded 15 kilos of shabu worth about 102 million pesos near the Osmeña Wharf in Barangay Poblacion, Lapu-Lapu City, Cebu on Saturday. Police identified the suspects as Eric Felicilda, 46, and Neil James Valesquina alias Bolantoy, 28. Also on Saturday, a suspect was caught in Bacong, Negros Oriental with 200 grams of shabu worth 1.3 million pesos. Four other suspects also fell in separate operations in the cities of Talisay and Toledo, yielding a total of 1.7 million worth of shabu. PNP officer in charge Lieutenant General Vicente Danao says these operations are another big accomplishment, stressing that the police will be more aggressive in the crackdown against illegal drugs. Caguait, Surigao del Sur is looking forward to improved tourism in the town as it kicked off its popular Kaliguan Festival last Friday, 2 years after the pandemic. Kaliguan is a festivity that locals have been celebrating for the past 26 years that honors St. John the Baptist. Top officials are looking forward to steady tourism activities after falling to zero arrivals from April to July in 2020. And in 2021, the arrivals in the town went up despite the continuing threats of COVID-19 and the implementation of health protocols. From January to May this year, tourism arrivals in Caguait already reached nearly 8,600, but with only one foreign tourist. The opening of the 26th Kaliguan Festival was led by Mayor Lilian Lozada and Surigao del Sur Governor Alexander Pimentel. Let's take another look at today's biggest stories. Overseas employment slowly picks up. The government says the deployment of Filipino migrant workers increased as countries slowly open up due to easing of COVID-19 curbs. No breather for motorists as fuel prices are up again this week with smaller price hikes amid rising inflation and the weakening of the local currency. No words but thank you. People from all walks of life pay tribute to President Rodrigo Duterte's service in a Thanksgiving concert days before he bows out of office. And stronger collaboration in food security, education, and other areas take center stage as the Philippines and France mark 75 years of diplomatic ties. As Filipinos, we all have a vital role to play in preventing the spread of COVID-19. So remember, wear your face masks and face shields, wash your hands often, practice safe physical distancing, go out only for essential reasons, and get vaccinated as soon as possible to protect ourselves, our families, and the community. Together, we can beat COVID-19. Thank you for watching another episode of the PNA Newsroom. For more news content, check our webpage or log on to the Philippine News Agency's Facebook and Twitter accounts. For more stories about the government and how it serves Filipinos, look for these hashtags in all of our social media platforms and websites. We are shown on the pages of the PCOO and its attached agencies. Also watch us on television on PTV4. And that's your daily dose of the biggest stories that you need to know. From the PNA Newsroom, we tell stories that inspire change. I am William Theo. Good day, everyone.